In this episode, I'm joined by Anastasia Stepanova, a space scientist completing a PhD in space resources. She was the first female test participant in a dry immersion experiment and was a mission specialist in international isolation for the Sirius 19 mission. We explored the hardest challenges with space exploration, the missions she's taken a part of, and the importance of female voices in science and life beyond our planet. Enjoy.
Always a bit challenging to tell what I do because it's so diverse and I have several different backgrounds. So I started as a space journalist, then I became mission specialist or test subject. I don't know what is the best to call it in different space experiments where we simulate extreme environment of space. It can be isolation, it can be microgravity, and many other limitations that we would encounter. And I have also engineering degree, and now I'm doing my PhD at Colorado School of Mines in space resources. So now I'm studying, especially moon resources, how it can benefit us humans and the first settlements on the moon.
That's amazing. And you also have a degree in journalism as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
journalism and engineering, and now space resources. Actually, you're currently working on space resources. Is your educational background? That's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's hard to, if you try to look for a job on LinkedIn, for example, and they have these filters, what would you put there? Who are you? So
Yeah, I can imagine it's a bit complex, but at the same time, you have such a unique background, and your perspective is truly unique. And I feel like that leads us to our next question here, which is like, what sparked your curiosity for outer space, and what made you decide that space journalism was important? What made you decide that engineering and space resources were things that were important to study for you?
I think we all start to dream about space when we were kids. And in my case, my dad was telling me about space and then reading me science fiction books. And I think that's what really made me, in a good way, obsessed with space. Because, in the like Ray Bradbury books, or we had also amazing Soviet Union writers like Strugatsky brothers. And you read there about better future, where we are advanced civilization, travel to different planets to explore, to encounter maybe new life, which also will help us to understand ourselves better. And so I was like, hey, when I grow up, I will be. Humans definitely will fly to the moon and to Mars. And then I was 18 and nothing is happening. And back then, since I was born in Soviet Union in Uzbekistan, then we moved to Russia, and back then it was like end of 90s. After Soviet Union collapsed, there was this 10 years of not the best times for Russia and for economy. So space was kind of not popular, and money weren't invested into space. And when I was choosing where to go, I was like, okay, what else I would like to do? And journalism is a really great profession because it keeps you moving all the time and studying all the time new fields. Because every article you're writing about, you really need to be kind of almost an expert, to do the really quality work. And my surprise were after a year at university, I was passing through the announcement board, and I saw there was a note like we're if you want to join the School of Space Journalism, and the professor is a real cosmonaut. I was like, oh my god, of course. So that's how it started.
That's awesome. That's fascinating that your actual prof was a cosmonaut. So you were able to hear stories, I imagine, of things that he did and some of the experiments, things that he participated in. What's something cool that the prof had shared or that you found was really fascinating, that he had either participated in or was in charge of in terms of like space experimentation?
I think it's more about maybe himself, in terms of how decent the human should be. So he has several degrees. He has engineering degree, law degree, journalist degree. He knows 5 languages. He's been the right hand of Russian President Yeltsin, and one of the co-authors of the law for the mass media. And yet he was so humble, and he was giving so much to the students with such a love and empathy. And when we just came to his first lesson, he asked us, what do we know about space? Like, in which year was the first Sputnik? Which year was the first human in space? And we were terrible. So we were not the best students, so we didn't know much. And he didn't look at us, with arrogancy, but it was opposite. He's like, that's why I'm here, and I'm happy. We start building this trust, and I can teach you how to be a great space journalist. And I think, and he taught me a lot, and we still keep in touch. We're still like a good friends. He's like my mentor. And after him, I thought that all cosmonauts like that, which is not true. But he really, for me, was this, example of how, how you should be, how the best qualities in human should build up in yourself. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful because as these explorers of the next frontier, like kind of leave our rock, our home that is this planet, you want those people to exemplify what it means to be human and the more positive aspects and sides to us, because it's not all bad. Humans are not all bad. We are mainly good, in my opinion. Just sometimes get into some bad situations, but overall, I think we have a heart. We definitely want to share love with our fellow humans. So my next question to you is, as a researcher, what are the key questions, the key mysteries that you'd love to uncover or that you love working on?
Oh, so for me, it was like before I participated in, space analytic missions, I thought that the most challenging is technology. Um, I'm actually working on, technological progress to get us to space and etc. But when I spent 4 months in isolation with 5 people, and we were simulating that we are flying to the moon and staying at the orbit, so we didn't see the sunlight for 4 months. We didn't have internet. We communicated only through emails with mission support and with our loved ones. Um, and I think, and at that moment, I realized when scientists of Institute of Biomedical Problems, where the experiment was held, they said that the most challenging and risky thing is it's a human factor when we are talking about space flights, especially to the Mars. And at that moment, I realized that I was like, how interesting and how challenging it is to really recruit and the crew for Mars mission, because it will be the most challenging one. And also how we can eliminate all the risks, because before you go to the mission, you think you know yourself. Then when you're in this new environment, things change, and you might be even like surprised, what are you doing and how are you acting. And how we can also kind of not control or help, help the future Martian crews to stay sane, not to risk the whole mission, not to and not to have anything that could lead to potential risks for the whole mission. So that's really interesting.
It sounds like the thing that we don't hear most about is the thing that's the most problematic. And what I mean is, we hear a lot about the money or how complicated the tech is, or how complex the environment on Mars is, and how unforgiving it is, and we need to solve for that. But from what you're saying, the most complicated and also the most important thing is the human element. How are these humans who are going to go on this expedition, it might likely be a one-way trip to Mars. I don't know what you know. I don't know like what's going on in the planning committee or planning teams for that, but it might very well be a one-way trip. And so you have to make sure that the humans that sign up for it can work together, support each other, and face new types of adversities that we probably will never and have never faced on this planet. which is fascinating and leads me to my next question about some of the experiments that I saw that you took part in. Some of the missions, I should call them, right? Mars 160 and Sirius 19. So please tell me more and our audience more about those two experiments and missions, sorry, and what they were about.
Yeah, so Mars 160, it's project by Mars Society, and they have two stations, one in Utah, which called Mars Desert Research Station, and another one is on a habitable island in Arctic. And those stations, they kind of simulate how we would live and work on Mars. And usually, crews come every 2 weeks to the station in Utah. And so anyone can apply if you have your project, and you can come and try and live like a Matt Damon. But in our case, they wanted to do first a year-long mission in Arctic, but unfortunately didn't have enough money, and station wasn't ready. So they decided to have it 3 months in Utah Desert and 3 months in Arctic with the same team. So we did first part in Utah in 2016, and then second part in 2017. And it was interesting that we really had super diverse crew. So also female and male, and from different countries like Australia, Japan, India, Canada, US, France, Russia. And with different backgrounds, everyone represented, like engineering, space architecture, geology, microbiology, and I was a crew journalist. So many variables, and so many things for crew to have a conflict, right? Because everyone's so different. But I think what really made us a successful crew is that we have this common goal, and no one um, had their ego higher than common goal. That's the key factor. That not like I want to perform the coolest or the best, and so everyone would see what a great commander I am, or like crew engineer. But everyone was like, we want to make this mission as successful as possible. So we were living like one body, one organism. And with Sirius, it was totally different in terms of that we've been like a lab rats. So we've been examined. With Mars 160, we've been studying the Mars. So we've been looking for traces of life and doing a lot of field work in the spacesuits. And in Sirius, we've been just in the space station with its own unique atmosphere and air pressure. So we didn't even breathe the air from outside. So there was like complicated life support systems that were controlled from outside. And we had more than like 60 cameras inside. So, and there was a mission support throughout the 4 months, 24/7. There were like a team on duty to monitor our health, the life support systems, and what we are doing. And we had a really packed schedule with more than 80 experiments on physiology, psychology, biology, and operating skills. And and it was the joint program with NASA Human Research Program. And so we had international crew, and all crew members needed to know Russian and English. So it's basically like on ISS. And it was 3 female, 3 males. They also wanted to see these dynamics, because before, instead of biomedical problems, they didn't do like equal amount of female and males, although they're really the pioneers in isolation experiments. They've been in this, I mean, they've been founded in 1967. And since then, they've been doing really hardcore but good ones space experiments on humans, how we can navigate, and also which countermeasures we can use for all extreme environment of space. So the first isolation experiment was in 67, called a year in Starship. And 3 men spent a year in a quite small space station, and their family thought that they're in Antarctic. So it was like secret project. Yeah, it went well. There were conflicts, but it went well. And
So that
yeah,
that was the first
mhm,
one back in 1967, right?
yeah, yes.
Okay. And so
And
you were taking part in the more recent one.
yes, I took part in 2019. And before that, IBMP, they also did the record breaking. It's still, record breaking experiment, Mars 500. So six male spent 520 days in isolation in this space station. Yeah.
And you were part of that or no?
No, no.
Okay, you weren't part of the 500 days, but you
Yeah.
were part of something that was well, probably record breaking in the sense that you were the first woman to take part in a correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like a hydrophobic bath to
Oh, yeah.
experiment how the body would react to
Yeah.
microgravity
So, yeah,
scenarios. Yeah.
yeah, it's called dry immersion. This is they created this unique bath because they needed to study how they can help cosmonauts with muscle loss, with muscle atrophy, with heart problems, etc. It happened in 70s when two cosmonauts spent around like more than 10 days in a spaceship without moving much. So when they landed to Earth, they couldn't even get out from the spaceship by themselves. They were so weak. And since then, our scientists created first, it was like wet immersion. Basically, test subject were just in the water all the time, which caused, of course, skin problems. But then they did this dry immersion. So it's bath filled with water. Then you have a waterproof foil there. You put test subject, like, he dives in, and so only your head is on top, and you spend there several days. They bring you food, they bring you, like a toilet, and once a day they lift you up, but you need to be horizontally all the time to, take quick showers. So we have 10 minutes for shower and for restroom for number two. And I never thought that I would take a shower horizontally. It's actually really interesting, and it takes way more time. So you try. I don't know. It was just a really interesting experience, and especially that, so it was after the isolation. So you're isolated, you're limited, right? But with dry immersion, you're even more limited. So you're laying down in this bath, and you cannot do anything by yourself. So you have to call all the time the lab workers to bring you anything, food, drinks, I don't know, anything. And so one side of me felt like, oh, I don't want to, bother people, but because you feel like you have a maiden or something that comes and brings you everything. But on the other side, like the scientist told me, no, Anastasia, you don't have to be shy. That's their work. It's an experiment. So if you need anything, call them. And your body really makes such a huge transformation when you're doing this. So even in day one, you are so surprised what's happening and you cannot control it. And for me, this was most like not scary, but you like to control things. You like that, that what's going on, and here your body reacts to this and doesn't listen to your mind. So first day I lost one and yeah 1.5 liters of liquid. So your body tries to get rid of the extra pressure caused by water. And then my spine stretched 2 centimeters only after first day. And it was crazy. I was like, wow. And there was the heart system also changed after 3 days. So it was just really interesting how fast your body adapts to something totally different and new.
And how long were you in that dry immersion bath for?
I was there only 3 days because it was first ever experiment in the world with females, and they didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, so we are so different. Come on. But usually this experiment lasts 7 or 21 day. But in our case, it's 3 day, and in 3 days, and scientists said that it's actually not the best because in these 3 days you have this, transformation and adaptation of your body to this new environment. And by the third day, finally, it adapted, and you can feel all the perks of this dry immersion. But in our case, they took us out. So we had to readapt to the Earth gravity and to everything. And so we had another, not the fun few days. But it was really, I was so happy that we did it, because before I was coming and telling them, hey, why no female participated? It's like, what, we are not flying to space, or we don't need to study what's happening with our muscles and heart systems? And they're like, well, it's complicated because you have hormones. And I was like, it's not so complicated, you can make it work. And also they were worried about the toilet thing. For guys it's way easier, and for females it's hard, because you don't want to have inflammation or any bacteria, etc. And so it's great that girls at IBMP is a kind of united to make it happen. And one of my colleagues, she created at home special device, like pump with different funnels, and she's like, this will work. So all together we made it happen, that this experiment started with females.
That's awesome. That I'm so glad that you and your colleagues pushed for that, because if we can build an entire rocket that costs billions of dollars, but we can't build proper toilet devices for women, like that just is a problem in my mind. It makes no sense to me. If we can build self-driving cars, we can't build a little device, like something's got to change here. So I'm really glad that you and others have been doing that, and I fully hope that and support this movement towards having more women astronauts or cosmonauts, or being more involved in the sciences, no matter what the small challenges are, like going to the bathroom. That's, I feel, is a small, really small challenge that can easily be solved with brilliant minds. So my next question is around space journalism. I think we're now at a point in time where space is cool and sexy again, and people want to hear about it, but that wasn't always the case. I think space has gone through a fluctuation of like high excitement and curiosity, and then, oh no, why are we spending so much money on this? And then it goes back up again. So I'd love to hear from your experience. Have you gone through both cycles, and how did you overcome when people would say negative things? Like, what was your response to that? And now that space is cool and exciting again, how do you feel about that? And are you writing anything interesting or continuing as a space journalist today?
Yeah, I've gone through both cycles. So when I was doing space journalism as my diploma work, no one else did it before. And I was at the best university in Russia for space for journalism. And so when my classmates were asking me, "Wow, what is your topic?" and then look at me like, "What, space journalism?" and started to laugh. Like, "Are you writing about UFO, aliens, and all that?" I was like, "No." So they looked at me at like I was a weirdo, and maybe I was a weirdo back at those days. It was 2009, 2010. And so I definitely, I was outcast in this matter, because everyone to be on TV, a TV journalist writing about, or maybe writing a diploma about politics, space as a fourth power and all that. And yeah, definitely not space. And after that, I think since there was a Mars one in 2013, which I was also taking part of. And then Elon Musk, and everything started to evolve so fast, and it all of a sudden became trendy. And all of a sudden, everyone now wants to write about space. I was like, wow, I was really happy because, finally people see, even though if it's like trendy or fashionable, but anyway, all these people now want to know a little bit more about space. And this was great, because before, when someone asked me, "Oh, are you participating in Mars One?" I was like, "Yeah." And then they asked, "I thought that people were on Mars already." So the level of knowledge was quite low. And I'm happy that now everyone, knows more about rockets, about Mars, and and I think that's the key, to inspire younger generation to choose professions that will be way more useful, rather than it was before. Like, if you have a look, I think in like in the beginning of 2000 and maybe in 2010, we have a lot of who are in finance, economics, lawyers, what else? Like, but not many engineers. I think those years they were not the ones who like really said, "Yeah, go be an engineer. It's really important, and you'll have a good life and good salary and etc." No, definitely not. At least that was in Russia, but I think also maybe worldwide. And now it's changing. Now it's really a different picture, and I hope it will continue like that, because we are really we're a bit stuck. So we're been not doing much in the last 50 years in terms of human space flights. So hopefully it will change soon.
How important is space journalism in telling the story of space and everything that is within space?
So with my case, I chose the strategy to be part of experiment or mission to really dive in and to feel everything from inside in order to write inspiring stories. Um, I think my journalism is more closer to writing a story as a writer, not like to just writing the news, which are dry and just facts. Because I'm the eyes of the general public who cannot do this, who cannot be involved in this experiment or in this mission. And for me, it was really important during all these missions to show why we are doing this, that we are not crazy people, that's still important, and why the taxpayers' money is spent on fundamental science or on space, how it can benefit, and I think it was. Oh well, I hope I hope it was success, but definitely in my circle and during several years, people change and they know way more about space and science than it used to be. And when you ask me if I still write, yes. So I went last year to the space launch of SpaceX Crew 5, where my cosmonaut friend Anna Kikina was on board. And for me, it was really amazing because she was waiting for this flight for 10 years. She's the only female in Russian cosmonaut squad. And so for me to share this moment, it was like, dream come true, also part of my dream come true. And and I wrote about this experience for Forbes Woman Russia. And now I'm also in touch with space.com, with Spaceflight Insider to continue writing.
That's awesome. That's incredible that you got to share that moment with her. And I hope you have your turn as well eventually someday through any means. How do you see our understanding of space evolving, right? Like, do you think we're going to go to Mars in our lifetime and like be able to understand Mars and the complexities to get there and feel confident enough to send people there?
I think we can. And because for me, it's always the example of the space race. Remember when in just like 10 years, impossible things were done. Getting not only first human to space, but getting to the moon. Of course, now it's way the barrier for the risk mitigation is way higher. So the things that they did in the Apollo mission, I think now no government would allow to do. But still, we have now better technologies. So if we concentrate, if we unite with the countries, which is I think the hardest part because no one wants to share, and everyone is kind of and also if we spend like more budget on science and space rather than on military things. So we would have good chances. But we are all waiting for Starship tests and successful tests and successful mission. And I think if this goes well, then after that, a lot of things would change.
What do you think about civilian space flight, like civilian rides with SpaceX, Blue Origin, and others? What are your thoughts on that? Is that something good, or should spaceflight only be reserved for professionally trained astronauts and cosmonauts?
I think it depends on the goal of those space flights. If it's like now with Blue Origin, they just go there for several minutes, fulfill their dream, see the Earth, and just happy and come back. And for them, that's enough. Yeah, why not? There should be a market for any type of customer, because for many who dream about space, they just want to be there, but then they don't realize or they don't want to work as a astronauts or cosmonauts, which spent like 6 months of hard work and dedication, and before that they spent like 10 years of also a lot of sacrifice. But if you're talking about really um, challenging, important space missions, where a lot put on, where a lot of science and a lot of complex things that should be accomplished, then of course we should use only the professionals who are prepared and trained for that.
Yeah, because it is taxing on the body and the mind in ways that are very hard to replicate here on Earth. So you'd want to have people who have had as much training as possible to do those complicated scientific tasks, plus all the money involved in preparing it. You cannot really afford mistakes, so you got to make sure things are done properly and done well. But I love that you support civilian spaceflight for I don't want to call it touristy, but for lack of a better term, maybe some space tourism. But I had read about how astronauts when they are up in space and they're looking at the Earth, there is this unified feeling of like, wait, we're just one people, one on this one rock, and it's our only one, and we need to take care of it. And that feeling is what fuels them to advocate for peace and collaboration and environmental concerns, or like proper environmental practices and things like that. So I feel like if more civilians or more people had that opportunity to experience that oneness from above, we'd be more we'd be more collaborative, I think, as a population, because I think we've grown distant for a variety of reasons. Some of them governmental, some of them economic. Like we've all kind of just, it's my country, my stuff, my secrets, and you've got your country, your stuff, your secrets. But we need to kind of come together, because at the end of the day, this is the only rock that we
Yeah.
have for the foreseeable future. I mean, sure, we want to colonize Mars, but that's going to take a long time. And we can't ruin our planet just because there's a second one that might work out in 100 years.
I have even more crazier dream than just not just, but than flying to space.
Okay.
Another dream that I hope to see in my lifetime is that we have only one, like everyone has one passport where it says citizen of Earth. That's it. Of course, it's crazy to see that it would happen in the next 50 years, but who knows? I'm really hoping it will happen. It doesn't mean that we have to forget about our origins or cultures. No, I think it's the next level of being really civilized. Still have your differences, but living together and sharing knowledge and be friends. And yeah, I think it will benefit so much to our planet.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think, we can have varied opinions of Elon Musk, but that aside, in the Tesla car that he sent up with the first rocket, I think on the license plate it says "made by humans on Earth," right? So it wasn't, made in the USA or made in whatever country. It was made by humans on Earth, which kind of symbolized, in the event that there is life out there, and they were to find it, that this one people, this one population on this one planet called Earth. Um, Speaking of life elsewhere, what do you think? Or is there life elsewhere in another solar system, in another galaxy far away?
Like intelligent or just life?
Let's talk about it. Let's I don't know, both.
I think for sure there is, if not intelligent, and I think it's even in our solar system. I'm most excited about missions to Enceladus, to Europa, and to Titan. I think
What are those?
it's the satellites of Jupiter and Saturn.
Okay.
So they are covered with a thick crust of ice, but underneath warm ocean with salty water. And For sure we can find some creatures there. With Titan, it's really exciting. It's totally different world, so it has its it has its own ocean and lakes and land, and I think for sure we can also find something there. And that's why I hope technology would, speed up. But outside of solar system, yes, I think we're too arrogant to think that we are the only intelligent species in the entire universe. Come on, we are not so intelligent. So for sure, there are intelligent civilizations, but I'm not sure if we can meet them in terms of the time and the distance. So yeah,
So you're saying that there's most likely non-intelligent life within our solar system,
yeah.
but there is also likely what we call intelligent life elsewhere, somewhere in the four-dimensional space that we live in. Uh, but we just haven't gotten any trace of them, and they haven't found. Maybe they have found us, but we don't know. But we don't know if they're out there. So that's fascinating, and I agree with that as well. I think that I don't think we're alone, but I wish that they would say hello if they're out there and they can understand us, just to collaborate. Who knows? I mean, I don't think that they're aggressive. Sometimes we like to, in the movies, the aliens are aggressive and want to kill us all. But I want to hope, I want to think that they're good people and we can collaborate together and advance our two distant civilizations.
Yeah, I was joking, since the COVID started, like pandemic, then other things, like the whole mess what's going on now with, politics and military conflicts. And I was like, oh, come on. Where's alien invasion? Come on, it's time. At least it will be something new.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny. And it's funny, all the like potential UFO videos we see are taken from like old cameras. It's never anyone with like a new good cell phone where you're like, oh, that could actually maybe be something. No, it's this old thing, and you're like, okay, that's not. We need real proof here if there's intelligent life. And so technology really is key to us being able to explore space and travel. What are the technological breakthroughs that are needed for us to be able to make that next step in space exploration?
I think new ways to travel. So now we're using old-fashioned, rocket propulsion methods, um, and well, this worked before, but if you want to go faster and further, we need something new. And also, when I talked about the human factor and how it's tricky, people would be like traveling for a year, almost like 8 months to Mars, and that will be the most challenging part. But then, if you have more advanced propulsion systems, then they can travel maybe in a month, so it won't be a problem. And months is not much for conflicts to arise or for going crazy. Uh, so yeah, technology is also important to kind of keep this human factor in in a standard in a standard way as we are live here on Earth. Because if we have a advanced technology, then we can build way more sophisticated Martian stations. So people shouldn't live like cramped up, six people in one kind of room, and this also would cause extra conflicts and tension, and people would go crazy. So yeah, I think it's like this two sides of it, to keep us in a good hands, we need a really good, yeah, really big jump in technology. We did a big jump in terms of software, AI and all that, but the hardware still needs a lot of work.
And why do you think that is? Is it just the laws of physics are a certain way and we still haven't found a way to optimize our use of the energy, or is there something else
It's
that's
way more
blocking us?
expensive. Yeah. I mean, like for software, you don't spend that much money, for hardware, like to actually build a rocket, like it's a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. It's dangerous, risky, and yeah. So who knows? Maybe AI will help to advance it, but yeah, it's challenging. And I wanted to tell you one more interesting thing about the flight to Mars. So psychologists and different scientists, they're uh, really worried about the period when a crew flies to Mars. They don't see Earth, but they don't see yet Mars. So they're like in the middle of nowhere, and never before any human being experienced that, and how this would affect your psychology, like your mental health. So they're worried about this moment, and also in every mission, it can be like polar mission or isolation experiment or space missions. There is like a phenomena of third quarter. So basically, in the middle of mission, um, you would start to be irritated, depressed, or not in the mood because you already did this all this time in this mission, and then you realize that you have to do the same amount of time. So it's also interesting how you can work with around that, if you know that what to expect, that okay, soon will be the half of the mission and I might be irritated and depressed, but then you might program yourself for that. So it's interesting. Should people know or not? So, yeah.
It is interesting because a couple years ago during COVID, I I read, so NASA had published a report on mental health of astronauts and like just how realizing how it is important, but that there was a problem because if aspiring astronauts would report any issues with their mental health, or if they were to report that they were feeling a little too irritated by something, it would hinder their chances of going on the mission. So they would not report it so that they can go on the mission, ideally. So there's seems, I don't know how this is being resolved today, but it seems like there's this conflict around reporting. Whereas, if you report how you're actually feeling, you may not go on the mission that you've been training so hard to go. But if you do report it, it could add more data points to science and improve the overall experience, but fall the risk of not going. Do you know if overall the sentiment around mental health, is it being treated as equally important as the physical health of the astronauts and cosmonauts who would be going?
Not as equally. No, no, definitely no. Still, we are working on that, but definitely everyone concentrated more on physical shape and physical well-being. Of course, I mean, if they see that person is like crazy, they wouldn't allow him. But nothing more deeper. I mean, you do this, psychological surveys and etc. But as you said, no one would be super honest because they know that their career depend on that. And I was talking with cosmonauts, and they've been also telling me like, no one like 100% honest, because come on, you come back to Earth and they would tell you, okay, so that was your last flight because you complained on that and that. So that's that's the problem, and I don't know how. I mean, yeah, how to fix it? Like either promising, like NASA or Roscosmos would promise, no, guys, no matter what you say, you still will be on the mission. But then when they really see the data, they're like, oh my God, no, this person cannot be on the mission, but we promise him. So it's really, yeah, it's really challenging.
It's a hard problem. It goes back to what you said earlier, how the most complex thing to solve for is the human problem, the human element, not necessarily the tech. Yes, tech is hugely important and complicated today, but the human problem is a little bit more complicated. What's your vision for the future when it comes to space exploration and space travel? What do you hope to see?
I hope to see that the best people who are really not only best in terms of their like experience, background, and knowledge, but also as a good human beings. Because we know so many talented engineers or scientists, but they're terrible in communication, in just working together. It was a lot of ego. So I think for the space flights, yes, I would love to see that like great people can apply and fly without it doesn't matter which passport they have, because now I see so many inspiring individuals but who live in countries that don't have space agencies, and for them the only chance is try to apply for the private space competition, or any other ways, but not like being involved professionally as a cosmonaut or astronaut. And I hope this will change. Also, I see another field. It's of course space tourism, and we'll see how it evolves. And if we are talking about this space station hotels, I see a little bit of danger there in terms of because people would go there, rich people who are spoiled and etc. So they're in space station, which has a lot of things to follow, a lot of rules and a lot of hazards. And I'm just worried how people would live and work there, and because it might lead to some disaster.
Of course, that's another thing that, as much as I love, for space tourism to pick up, I think rules 1, 2, and 3 should be: don't mess with space because space will mess with you. Like it's not the time to play around. Like you're still in a very unforgiving environment. So yeah, I hope that whoever is developing those solutions makes sure that they select the people not based on the amount of money they have in their bank account, but on their ability to respect the environment that they're in and respect their fellow crewmates and space tourists, because one mistake could be the end for everyone. For our final question, what advice would you have for anyone, young or old, who is interested in space or wants to work in as a scientist or just as an enthusiast? What would you say to them if they have a passion for space?
Don't limit yourself. I met so many people who say, I'm afraid to apply for this program, or why would they need me? So they just don't write at all, and they don't know if they have a chance or not. So there's nothing bad in asking or in just sending your CV, and it's what would you lose? Nothing. Yes, it's scary. You might feel rejected or something else, but that's you can survive this. And on the other hand, it is a chance. And if you don't try, you wouldn't find out. What would future bring you. And I think just be brave, even in this matter. Like be brave, believe in yourself, but also keep working. Like if you see, okay, I have this blank, spaces, or I have room to grow in order to be more, more seen in this competitive market, then just do as much as you can, but don't. I don't. Like I don't want to. I see so many people who are overburned, or who like keep really who are really harsh to themselves because of this competition, because of this social media. They see, oh, this person is so successful, and it happens in space world also. And I think it's important to hear your inner voice, to be more concentrated of what you really want, because if you do what your heart wants, you would be successful, honestly, but not what society tells you, or social media, or if you're competing with your friend. No, 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 this wouldn't work. Just what you really want from the bottom of your heart. So yeah.
That's an awesome way to end. Anastasia, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your interests and your passion with us. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a true pleasure to talk to you.